Alright, and welcome back. So this is going to be part 2 of flat belly skid plate on the Blazer. So in the last part, I ran out of argon and trying to get everything done. So in this part, I'm going to get everything welded up and finished up where I left off, and then after I get all that stuff done, I'm going to move on and start mounting the actual plate of the skid plate. So it's going to be flat 1/4 inch plate across the whole thing. So I'm going to get back to work and hopefully get this thing finished. It's going to be in this video for sure, but I still got at least a couple days of work on this thing, so I'm gonna get right back to work. First thing I'm gonna do today is I got to get a bunch of these tabs cut out. I need to get 8 of them cut out, so I'm just gonna go ahead, get all those cut out and ready to go. And then I'm going to start getting the tubes that go from the skid plate to the frame cut out and notched. And then after that, I can start making all the mounts. And then once I get all the mounts out, I got to take the skid plate off again and finally start mounting the actual bottom of the skid plate, so it's all 1/4 inch plate. So yeah, I'm just going to start cutting stuff out, and then I'll bring you guys back and show you how everything's gonna work. So alright, so this is what I was building. It's just 2 plates with a bolt going through it, and it's got the nut welded on the back side there. And then I bring you underneath the Blazer here. You can see, well, maybe you can't see, I drilled 2 holes into the frame right here and here. It's the same on those ones, and then that's welded. So that goes into the holes like that. The back plate gets welded to the frame. This plate gets welded to a tube that comes down to the skid plate. So that's how I'm mounting it to the frame. So I'm gonna get these tubes cut up and tacked into place, and then I got to pull the whole thing out again, fully weld it, and mount the actual skid plate on the bottom. But super happy with how it's turned out, so we'll keep working on it. Alright, so I've been kind of playing around with ideas for the front mounts, but I found this piece of scrap and I put it up in here. You're not gonna really be able to see this. 1 second. You kind of see it right there. Piece of scrap right there. It already had a notch on one side. Fits pretty much perfectly right there. So I was thinking about doing something fancy, you know, putting a bend in it, but I don't really see anything wrong with that. So it's got plenty of clearance for the drive shaft right there. So I might just take that and use that right there as that mount. Then over here on this side, it's a little bit more complicated. There's not very much room here at all. This is the upper link right here. I was trying to get it to go up and over the link, but the starter is right there. So I'm gonna come off of this and kind of around to the frame here, kind of loop underneath the upper link. So I think that's the best option here. So I'm going to bend something to almost a 90 and come up and do the same thing I did. You know, drill 2 holes in this and weld the plate right here to this, and then build a bracket off of it. But so yeah, I'm going to get that kind of cut up. I'm going to see if I can get that piece to work for that side. I think just being straight is going to be fine. So why complicate it and just go with that? I think it'll look good too. And then for the other side, I'm just going to bend a piece to almost a 90, not quite, just because I want a little bit of angle on it, and it'll be a little bit stronger the least I have to bend it. So it is what it is, but I'm gonna get that kind of figured out, and then I'll show you guys what I come up. All right, so I got the front 2 mounts figured out. Passenger side took me a lot longer than I care to admit. I built it 3 times, so I didn't video any of it just because I was frustrated everything I did, you know, was in the way of stuff. But this is what I finally got. So yes, this took me 3 hours to do, this one mount. It's simple, but that's the only way it'll work right there. So I had it, you know, kind of come back up here at one point. It hit, you can see where it's tacked here, and then I had it kind of come back, but I didn't like it, and I wanted to keep it coming up. But I finally decided just to do that, and it clears. And then this is the other one. This one was super easy to build, is straight, and yeah. So here it is. But still got a lot of welding to do on this, so probably set up a time lapse and weld this thing completely up, and then start mounting the 1/4-inch plate to the bottom of it. I got something really cool to mount that, so I'll show you guys that in a minute too. Okay, so I got all the welding done on the frame of this thing. So now I'm going to move over to this. It's got carpet glue on it. There's a carpet on this, but I don't want to take the time and grind it off. So I'm just going to plasma cut through it. But I got the shape kind of roughly traced out on here. There's probably going to need some, you know, fine tuning once I get it cut off. But that's the rough shape. So I got the plasma cutter out. I'm gonna get it fired up and just quickly cut this out, and then I'm gonna test fit it to it and mark where I need to grind it and grind it all smooth. Then I can start mounting it. So it's been a long process, but I got a cool way of mounting it that I'll show you when I get to it. And there it is. Looks super good. Fits pretty dang well. So now I'm going to go around the edge of the grinder, just clean up. The plasma cutter doesn't leave a very good edge, so it's pretty jagged. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to go around and hit it with the grinder, clean it all up, and then I can actually start mounting this to it. Alright, so I just got that all cleaned up. This looks better, and you know, smooth edge doesn't matter because skid plate, it's gonna get all banged up anyway. Then I did a test on how I'm gonna mount the skid plate. It's gonna be with these right here, kind of countersunk 3/8 bolts. Go in so they're nice and flush. You can tell it's not quite flush, but I didn't want to go any deeper at the countersink. You know, I want it to have as much grab on as possible. So I think what I'm going to do is get a washer that fits around these and weld a washer around them. So this will be countersunk in there like that, and then it'll have a washer around it, so when rocks and stuff slide over it, it don't mess up the Allen head, and you can actually get these out. Because if I just did this like this, you know, it takes a rock right across it and you'll never be able to get it out again. So I'm going to put a weld washer around it, but I need to get that stuff tomorrow. So I'm gonna head home again. So go home, take a shower, get some sleep, come back and get on this tomorrow. I'm gonna go stop by the hardware store in the morning, see if I can get some washers for that, and then I can finish this thing up tomorrow. So I wanted to get it done today, but it's just not gonna happen. So tomorrow for sure, get this thing finished. So it's tomorrow. Alright, so I got it flipped over, and I actually tacked this plate onto the frame just so it stays there. And now I'm going to build a bunch of little tabs that can get welded in here, and that way I can drill through it, and this is tacked to this, so I can just drill through it and they'll all be lined up, and I can cut the tacks and then I can just bolt it in afterwards. But I got 12 bolts. So I need to cut out 12 little tabs and then figure out where I'm going to position them. And then once I get them positioned, I can drill holes in them. So I got this flat strap here from when I built all the other mounts. I made sure to buy extra so I could have some left over for this. So I'm going to cut 12 little tabs out of this and then start positioning them where I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it yet. But there's going to be 5 on each side and then 2 in the middle somewhere, is the plan anyway. Okay, I got them all laid out where I'm going to do it, where they're all going to be mounted. I think it's pretty evenly dispersed. They kind of go staggering, you know, zigzag back and forth. I think that's going to work out pretty good. So now I'm going to just weld these on, go around, weld them all on, and then I'll drill through both layers, and then I can cut the tacks holding this into place, and then I'll be able to just put a bolt through, and I'll weld a nut on the inside here. So you can just put it in from the bottom, super easy. And once I get all that stuff welded and drilled out, then I'll show you guys. How I'm going to recess the bolts in there, so the bottom's flat and there's no bolt heads hanging down. I showed you a little bit over there, so yeah, just keep going. Okay, so I got that all done. As you guys saw, so now that those are there, you know, when you put the bolt in there, it can't get hit or anything. So it's finally to the point where I can bolt it in and leave it in. So I'm gonna crawl under there and get this thing bolted in, and then I could build the transmission mount, and then I could bolt the skid onto the bottom, and it'll finally be done. So I'm gonna get this bolted up and then show you guys my plans for the transmission mount. So alright, so I just got the skid plate in, so now I gotta work on building the transmission mount. And I think I'm just gonna go with a piece of angle iron bolted to it and then run some tube to it. And I already have a piece right here from the old mount, just a piece of angle iron welded in there. So I'm just gonna cut this out and use that, because why not? So I'm gonna cut that out and just bolt that to the transmission and try to figure out exactly what I want to do. I might not end up using this, but I think it's a good place to start at least. So just gonna cut that off and yeah, go from there, I guess. So I'm super excited. Yeah, it's getting close. It's been a lot of work and I'm super happy with it. So we're on the final stretch here. So I'm gonna get that cut out and hopefully get it mounted up pretty quick. Alright, so this is what I got so far for the mount. So that'll weld to that tube right there, and then where that's notched out, I'm going to run another tube from here to over here. So I'll have 2 tubes to mount to, be super strong, and I think that's going to work out great. So I'm going to get a piece of tubing cut and notched for this, and I can get it welded in here, and then I can bolt the bottom skid on, then it'll be done. So I'm gonna get that cut. Alright, so as you can see, I changed up plans a little bit. I realized that was probably a little bit overkill going all the way across, and I found this little piece laying around that fit like perfectly in there like that. And yeah, so I just used that and I filled this hole in, I did, and just welded it up so it's got weld here and, you know, obviously that tube right there. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's going to be strong, it's going to work, and it'll get covered up anyway, so you'll never see it. So I think that's going to work and saves a lot of time and tube. And yeah, next thing I can do is finally get the plate bolted up to this thing. So super excited to see what it looks like with that on there. And there it is, all installed. Look at that, flat, whole way. Even these links tucked up out of the way, rear links hang down just barely, but you know, they're basically right in line with everything. Comes all the way forward. Protect my oil pan, my transmission. Super happy with how this turned out. Last thing I gotta do is just throw the front coilovers in. Then I can finally take it off of jack stands and get her pulled outside and then look at it. Alright, so I brought the Blazer out to a ditch and I drove it in it just to make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. So hopefully you guys can see what I did and see actually what it looks like a little bit better. It's kind of hard to film underneath, but so there it is. Completely flat. All the way up underneath the oil pan, transmission, all the way back. The links are all tucked up nice and close, so I think that's going to be way better. Yeah, so there it is. Finished product. Took a lot longer than I thought. I had to redo a lot more. I had to redo the third link and all of that kind of stuff, but I'm super happy with how it turned out, and hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video, and stay tuned for the next one.